Cam Hayward. I know we're kind of tired and we're waiting for the Cam Hayward thing to resolve itself, but he spoke with the Athletics' Mark Cavoli and said that it doesn't really matter if he plays for the Pittsburgh Steelers or not. And he wants to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He wants to remain with the Pittsburgh Steelers, but, quote, we'll see what happens. But I can assure you this, I will be playing in 2025. Cam Hayward, is he on his way out of the Pittsburgh Steelers? I don't want to blow things up, but I think at 35 years old, there's no chance he's gone this season. I think there's a slim chance he's gone next season. But do you think that things could reach a breaking point? I'll give you my short answer before I let you answer, and then I'll dive in more where I stand. I'm going to say no. I think he's still here in 2025 and potentially beyond. But I do think this is getting a little bit dramatic, which it does not need to be.
Yeah, when you look at all of this, everything and every word that's coming out of Cam Hayward's mouth right now is to help his position in these contract negotiations. And it's understandable. And you've mentioned it. We're a player first podcast, right? We like to see everybody get paid. But with Cam, he's seen this story play out a couple of times with great Steelers. He saw it play out with Heyward. I believe that was in his rookie year. He saw it play out with Troy Polamalu. Whenever they're done, the Steelers say, all right, you're done. You can sign somewhere else, but we know how important it is to you to be a Steeler for life. And those players chose retirement. Cam Hayward's not going to go easily into that good night. So that's why you see some of this stuff. That's why you see him sitting out as long as he could possibly bear it of OTAs until he finally got to a point where he said, I need to be on the field. I just do. Yeah. And that's who Cam Hayward is. And that's great. And that's why the Steelers still have interest in bringing him back, that match with the fact that when he's on, he's one of the best on that defensive line in the entire National Football League. But at this point, yeah, it's going to get to a point where it's going to be a little bit of petty. There's going to be stories that pop up from either side that something's leaked or a comment is said, and that's just contract negotiations, however not fun it may be. So he's seen this play out before. He wants to play his whole career in Pittsburgh, but at the end of the day, he doesn't want to be forced to maybe retire 2 years earlier than he wanted to just to stay in Pittsburgh, and I understand that.
Yeah. I agree. I think if you got game left in you, and Cam Hayward does, like last year, he dealt with the injury. But he came back here. Everybody says that he looks faster and better than he did a year ago. Before that, he's back-to-back 10-sack seasons. That's still a very quality player, one of the best players on the Steelers defense. I don't think you're going to get less than that this season. I think you're still going to get Cam Hayward, who's, I'm not going to say all pro level, but earns Pro Bowls, at least in contention to earn a Pro Bowl. He's still leader of this defense. You saw the drop-off of other guys, and I think that's the difference here, is you saw the drop-off of Troy Polamalu, which was terribly sad to see. You know, that guy was the greatest ever, potentially. And you saw Heyward kind of being passed up by guys like Antonio Brown and Mike Wallace. You saw these things. Cam Hayward's not getting passed up. You know, there's no talks of, is Cam Hayward's career coming to an end? Is he taking steps backwards? I think that's the difference when you have these conversations. And that's what the Steelers do. You're spot on. Is they hit a point with these guys where they realize it's better to move on now than wait it out. And they let Ben Roethlisberger stick around as long as they possibly can. And I get it. It's the most important position on the football field. Do you want a guy who's a Hall of Famer? That's what you do. Tom Brady won Super Bowls right up until the end. And Ben Roethlisberger had the potential to do so as well. Cam Heyward doesn't have that same impact as a Ben Roethlisberger or a quarterback, you know, but he's still good enough to make a really quality impact to this team. I don't know how it's going to go down because I think that the Steelers are definitely stuck in their ways with certain things. I think it's going to come down to Cam. How much is he willing to negotiate? Is he willing to sit here and look at this as I'll take less money for 2 years, or I'll take a very team-friendly deal on the last season so that things work out where if I'm not as good next year, I can move on or they can move on. I think that's where we stand. I look at Cam as a dude who still earns his contract and deserves the money. But I don't know if the Steelers see that, you know, he's worth a risk for 2 seasons, because at 37 years old, dude, at some point you're pushing the line. Cam's pushing the line. That's what it comes down to, is the 2 years. He wants 2 years guaranteed. They're not guaranteed money, but he wants to be here for 2 years. He wants to know that he can finish with the Steelers and have 2 years left on his deal. The Steelers aren't going to want to give that to him. So it's going to come down to, can Cam and the Steelers find a way where it's either heavily front-loaded in Cam's favor, or there's an easy out for the Pittsburgh Steelers somewhere because they're not willing to take a risk, and Cam might be taking more of a risk on himself. It's not the best situation for Cam. It's not the best situation for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I get where they're coming from. I also see where Cam's coming from because he has certainly outplayed those before him who have been in this situation. Do you think it ends with Cam getting a contract extension this summer, or do you think we head into next year waiting to see what happens?
That's a tough one because, like you said, the Steelers, more so than maybe any other organization in this league, are stuck in their ways in certain things. And this is one of those things where they don't want to pay you for the shell of you. So it's going to be hard. That's the thing too, though. You mentioned it. Maybe last year, because of the injuries, he started to look like that. But again, how much of that is due to the injuries? I would say a lot, considering it was a groin injury. So I think that Cam, like you mentioned, and like he mentioned, still has a lot to give. I found it really interesting that he came out and just point blank said last week, 3 years.
Yep.
I think I got 3 years. Basically telling everybody, hey, no matter what they say, this is what I'm asking for. This is what I want, and that's what's most important to me is the 3 years. So if I had to guess, I would say that that's tough. I would say they get something done because he is more determined and he's been more proactive than those before him that we've mentioned already in this conversation.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's a contract in Cam's favor, but I do think a deal gets done. I think at some point they hit a point where I've made a lot of money. I feel really good. I get to play 2 years and finish my career in Pittsburgh. My kids are born here. I'm from here. This means a lot to me. Let's make this respectful. And I also think the Steelers are going to do some good by him and kind of give him, it's not going to be a bad contract for Cam. It's just going to be a team-friendly deal for the Steelers that works more in their favor than it does Cam's. And I think at 35 years old, you can't ask for much more if they're going to honor how long you want to play. So I think that's where we stand with that. There'll be more to come. Cam's got a podcast, so there's plenty of reactions and words coming from both sides of this. And we'll have stories as we head to training camp.